Do you feel like you're being pushed to breaking point? Are you just so completely overwhelmed with so many burdens that you're just not sure how you're going to cope anymore? Good. This is exactly where you need to be. Hi everyone, I'm Nicolene. I am the Flamekeeper. I'm an intuitive artist, medical medium practitioner, and energy healer, and spiritual coach. So there are so many waves of light entering the planet right now, and they really are building in momentum. And the purpose for this is actually to bring us to a place of surrender. So on the 8th of November, which is coming up in just a day or two, there'll be a blood moon eclipse. And the purpose of this eclipse is actually to push us to breaking point. And in order for us to realize that we actually can't cope with the burdens we're carrying right now, and to push us to a place of surrender. You see, now when I say surrender, there's a very big difference between giving up and giving in. And I want to explain the energy between the two. So when you say, I'm going to just give up, this is all too much for me, what you're really saying is, this is hopeless, it feels futile, I feel desperate, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm just not even going to bother anymore. Okay? That's the energy of giving up. And I'm not suggesting giving up by surrender. What I'm saying actually is to give in. And the energy of giving in is very different. So as it implies going with inside of yourself and actually coming to a place of being grounded and centered and balanced, and coming to an understanding that you need to ask a higher being, God, Source, the universe, your team of angels and guides who are here to assist you, to actually step in and help you, because you are overburdened and overwhelmed. And the truth is that you're not meant to carry these burdens. And so when you give in, that's when release happens. The truth is, the energy of surrender, or the opportunity to surrender, is very prominent in the collective right now. And whether people are aware of it or not, it's there. And they are tuning in different ways and to different levels. So the other day I was listening to the radio, and the two commentators were kind of just playing around, and they were saying, oh, this is this new song from this album, Sisyphus. And then they started saying, oh, Sisyphus, that's that ancient Greek myth, right? Where there was this guy who was condemned to hell. And what his journey was, what his punishment was to push a huge boulder uphill every single day. And to get it right to the very top, and then to have it defeat him by rolling backwards again to the bottom of the hill. And him having to start this whole process again. And I thought, Sisyphus is actually a metaphor or a story for all of us, right? We have these burdens, these incredible weights, these things that we just can't manage, that are too heavy for us. And we insist on lugging them around with it in our daily lives every single day. These belief systems that we have, these wounds that we have, and they're this huge burden. And yet we have this attitude, or we think that it's noble for us to carry this burden. And Sisyphus is really a metaphor for all of us, and it's a metaphor for the absurdity of our lives and how we go about living them, right? So yes, when we carry these burdens and we continue to try and kind of lug them around with us and push them up a hill, it's really, we're putting ourselves into a personal hell. And we have an opportunity now to surrender that and to let go. And so I'd just like to share like a little story from my childhood, something that touched me really deeply. So I had a lot of profound trauma as a child, and I actually suffered sexual abuse. And it was such a very big, profound wound for me. And that it was such a big, scary thing for me to look at, and it completely overwhelmed me. So what I did as a child was I shoved it down really deep inside of me, and I kind of covered it up with so many layers of dirt and mud and leaves, and so much so that I didn't even know it was there any longer on a conscious level. But it was within me, and the subconscious me knew it was there. And so it was poisoning my whole life. And this really big, very heavy burden was in there, and I needed to let it go, okay? So at a certain stage in my healing journey, I was guided to energy healing. And a lot of very profound shifts happened for me in these sessions that I went to. And this was actually what guided me to become an energy healer later on. But at the time, the first few sessions were quite blissful. They uncovered a certain layer of dirt and, if you like, a sort of a minor trauma. And I dealt with that. And then I'd go back and uncover something else, and another trauma was kind of washed away. But when it got to the really key trauma, the key thing that I was holding inside of me, this sexual abuse, I became so vulnerable, and it was just there. It was all uncovered, and it was totally bare, and it was totally overwhelming for me. And it really left me, this energy healing session left me feeling very rattled and vulnerable. And so I came home, and I really wasn't in any fit state to do anything much. But I had 2 small children and a family, and so I came home and I sort of washed the toddlers and, you know, got them dressed in their pajamas and so on. And I made the dinner, and I was just exhausted. And as I sat down to the table, I kind of just, through sheer exhaustion, I just kind of zoned out a bit. And what happened was I zoned in. And as I did that, I received a vision. And what I saw was I saw myself in this river. And the water was really muddy and dirty, and there was all this shrapnel and things flying around in this dirty water. And it was kind of slicing into my arms and into my belly and into my thighs. And I was desperately holding on to these roots, these overhanging branches, tree branches, on this little tiny muddy island in the middle of this river. And I was telling myself, I'll just hang on, and if I can just pull myself out onto this little tiny island, I'll be safe. And then I heard this voice, and it said, just let go. Just let go. You'll be swept away by the river into the sea, where the ocean is calm and the water is clean, and you'll be safe. And then safely carried back to shore. And in this instance, I was able to do it. And I actually just released my grip, my stranglehold on this thing that I was holding on to. That it was this little safety net, this anchor that I was trying to hold on to find some safe footing and some safe harbor. And I released it. And that was actually me, in that moment, relinquishing a little bit of control to a higher power. You see, relinquishing a little bit of that burden that I was carrying within me, that sexual abuse. And as I sort of look at that from a higher perspective, I can now see how flawed my plan was, right? I thought, okay, all I need to do is I just need to get onto this little mud island, and then I'll be safe. The truth of the matter is, on that mud island, I was all alone. It was tiny. It was, a few meters wide. There was no food on it. I was going to starve to death. That was my plan. But a higher power had a much more powerful plan from a higher perspective and could see more how I was going to be able to navigate this and to navigate my life. And so this is an invitation to you to surrender the burden that you are carrying right now at this time. And the way you do that is to actually go within and to call in angelic assistance and say, you know what, God, this is too big for me. I can't do it. It's overwhelming me. And to admit that to yourself, to admit that you don't have the strength. And then to say, okay, I'm going to release it over to you. I'm not going to carry it with me any longer. I don't need to carry this any longer. And you can do this. And this is the time for it. This is the time of surrender. Now, I hope this has been helpful for you. If you've liked this message, please like and subscribe to my channel. And also, I have a top 10 tips for simple ways on how to surrender right now into this beautiful energy that is supporting us. And it's on my blog, so if you want to join my blog, please click the link below. It's at www.theflamekeeper.com.au. Thank you.